So today I want to talk about why our healthcare is a mess, even if you have good health insurance. We have people all the time that call our office and they're like, I have really good health insurance. I'm like, great, go for it. See what that gets you. And we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on so that you have a better understanding and can really make a better decision about your health as to what you want to do. So if you look at the hospitals, like the hospitals, I mean, I saw the writing on the wall like 10 years ago, and you just saw Baylor buying up all these, trying to get to where they're so big in Texas and buying up other places and just where they're everywhere. And so what's happened is the hospital systems have come in and said, okay, we're so big that you, health insurance, have to pay us so much money, or we're just going to drop you and you're not going to have anywhere for your people to go. And so there's been a battle and a fight between that. So that's what's happened. That's what's driven the costs up. So when you go and do like an MRI, for instance, in a hospital, it's going to be double the cost of doing an MRI on a freestanding place because they are saying we need this much money. Same thing with PT. PT in a hospital is $400 a visit, maybe even more than that. Like that's what they get from the health insurance. And so it's really driven costs up. But are you, for that money, are you really getting the service and are you really finding people that are going to help you get to the source of the problem? Here's another problem. So the hospitals don't care about getting you like trying to avoid surgery. The hospitals are buying up doctor practices that do the most procedures. They want the ones that do the most procedures, that either send them out for all the testing, or they're doing all these surgeries because that's what they want, that they realize they're going to make the most money out of that. So when you go to places, that's what they're looking for. They're looking to, okay, what kind of surgery can we do? What kind of testing can we do? And that's going to lead you down to more procedures because honestly, what you need is a place where they're going to sit down and have a conversation with you and really try to figure out fitting all the pieces together. And that's kind of what we do. We sit down, have a conversation, we have a 30-minute conversation before we even get started to figuring out what's going on with like how we can kind of connect all the dots to you, figuring out where the source of your problem is coming from. So when you go to other places, it may take a while to get in. Like you could go to a physical therapy place and it may take you 2, 3, 4 weeks to get in to an office. My husband, who has amazing insurance, I mean, very low deductible, he was having a bout of gout. And I was like, well, I have a doctor. You just have to pay her, but she'll come actually to your house and she'll test you and get you started so that you can actually start feeling better. He's like, no, 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 no. I'm just going to wait. I have really good health insurance. So he started calling around, and to get into a specialist, it was going to take him 2 to 3 months. So he was going to have to deal with this for 2 to 3 months before he could actually get some help. And that's the other problem that's happening is that there's healthcare providers out there literally that are like, I'm done. Like I'm exhausted because when you go into some of these corporate places, they work you to death. And now I'm not saying this because I'm a hard worker and I will get everything done. But as a healthcare provider, we want to help you and we want to spend time with you to figure things out. And if we can't and we don't have the time, then and we're having to do all these other things, then we're like exhausted because we're trying to put so much time and effort into your care. But at some point, you just can't do it all. Like you can't go and spend, 20 minutes on a note because that's what it takes now because you have to click all these boxes for all the paperwork that we have to do, not to mention all the extra paperwork that we have to do for health insurance. It's not even just verifying benefits. Now there's other paperwork or surveys that we have to fill out on top of our paperwork so that we're spending way more time doing paperwork than actually spending time with the patients to figure out what's going on. It's a mess. And we've got to fix it. And I don't know how we're going to fix it, but there's other places that are popping up very similar to places like our place where people are coming in and we can actually spend the time with you being out of network with insurance plans. And I'm telling you, you're going to spend way less money and get way better results and understanding what's going on with you, or us figuring out like, there's another piece to this that we need to go refer out to. Like you have an autoimmune condition and the traditional medicine is not going to help you with that. They're going to put you on prednisone that basically is just going to lower your immune system so that you don't feel it. And they're just wanting to shove drugs down you versus Let's figure this out and get down to the source and get your body back into balance. These are just another example of what's going on. And in our healthcare system, we tend to just treat a symptom. Here's another great example. So I'm going to give you from a dog perspective, because this literally just happened to me. And, my dog wasn't doing as well. So I took her to the vet. She'd been flipping her ears, scratching the side of her neck. And I was like, gosh, she must have an ear infection or something. And she just was low energy. Took her to the vet. Yeah, maybe it's just on the tail end of it. Let's just go ahead and give her a treatment. Still scratching, still flipping her ears. And she also would like bark, like, like yelp, like she was hurting. And I'm like, this is really weird. If you barely even touched her, she would yelp. Or if you didn't even touch her at all, she would yelp. No one can figure that piece out. 3 weeks later, she literally is getting worse. And I'm like, now she can't breathe. Now she's coughing. I'm like, what is going on? Like, how is this have to be connected? Went back to the vet, looked at her, took x-rays. She has a cracked trachea. That's common for small dogs. I'm like, okay, so here's a cough suppressant. So that's going to kind of help her like reduce, her from coughing, so we can reduce the swelling. Okay, makes sense. But I still don't understand why she's flipping her ears and she's scratching and she's yelping, because none of that makes sense. So come to find out, went in and one of my PTs, we don't treat dogs at all. One of my PTs came in and said, well, let me just do some myofascial treatment on her. Did a little bit of myofascial, and she's like, her neck muscles are so tight. She goes, I think she has a neck problem. She goes in up and hits the upper part of her neck. She yelps. I'm like, there's the yelp. That's it. It was a neck issue. So we start doing treatment on her, and all of a sudden she's breathing. She's not coughing. I'm like, that's why the ears are flopping. That's why she's scratching that side of her neck. That is why she's having a hard time breathing and coughing, because it's spasming and her trachea is right there where all those muscles are. That all makes sense. But it took a physical therapist that doesn't even treat a dog, that's not a vet, to go in and kind of figure out and put all the pieces together. This is what happens in our healthcare system. And you can go and spend a lot of money and a lot of time going to all these different providers. They'll say like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't treat your back. I only treat the hip. You go to the hip doctor. Oh, this is not a hip issue. It must be coming from somewhere else. Or you have arthritis, but do you really have arthritis? I mean, you just get spun around and you're like, I'm so frustrated. Why can't someone figure this out? We had a recent patient that came in and she had a partial knee replacement, and she was still having pain and still having issues. And the doctor's like, I mean, everything is normal. Like, you shouldn't be having these issues. And so he's like, I think it's coming from your back. And so she had called us, and she's a past patient. And I said, I'll be able to find out in a day whether this is coming from your back or not. She did imaging. The doctors want to do injections on her back. She came in. I'm like, could move her back. I mean, we can move it every direction. I could do overpressure. I go, listen, if you have a back issue, these all would be an issue. Like, you wouldn't be able to move the way you're moving. You have normal range of motion, you have no hard infeel, and nothing is producing anything in your leg. This is not coming from your back. So please don't get an injection after, and she had an MRI to her back, an MRI to her hip, and an MRI to her knee. 3 MRIs. And I'm like, this is crazy. We just need to get her stronger. She is just very weak and she's overdoing it a little bit. And I think that is what's happening. We're starting to work on some strengthening. Things are tightening up. That's normal. We've got to release that as we keep on going. But it took like a conversation and moving her and taking some critical thinking skills to really figure out that, no, this is not a back issue. But it's, again, what's wrong with our healthcare system. You go in and see a doctor, they spend 10 minutes with you, and you're expected to have like a diagnosis in 10 minutes when I don't even know how you even do that when you're not really sure what's going on. Now, if you fell and fractured your elbow, I could see that being, yes, okay, take an x-ray, there's a fracture, that's easy. But most of the time, 80% of the time, when people come into our office, they're not sure what they did. They're like, I just started hurting, or I'm not getting better and I don't understand. And that takes longer than a 10-minute conversation. But in the hospitals, it's all about productivity, productivity, productivity. You have to see more. You have to see more. You have to see more. And by doing that, it is creating where they're doing more procedures. They're doing more testing because they don't have time. And the tests are going to tell me, but it doesn't. I'm going to give you another analogy. Take your car to the shop. This is what we do. We take our car to the shop If you get someone that's a really good mechanic, they basically can be like, oh, okay, it's either this or this. Let's go look at this. If you take your car into a place that doesn't, it's not really sure what's, they're basically like our healthcare system. What they do is they hook it up to a machine, and the machine says there's 7 things that are wrong with it. Are all 7 things a problem? No, there's one thing that's a problem. But if you sit down and have a really good mechanic to go in and navigate this and go like, okay, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. So it's got to either be this or this. Let's go look at that. You want to go back to them because that's amazing. Wow. Other than going to another mechanic that hooks you up to a machine and they want to replace all 7 things. That's our healthcare system, literally in a nutshell. They want to hook you up to all these machines to do all these testing, and it's going to tell you exactly what's going on. No, it doesn't. When you have issues, I always tell people where the side of the pain is often not where the source of the problem is. So I'll go back to back pain. You can have issues with back pain that are in your back. You can have issues that create back pain that are in your thoracic spine, your lower part of your thoracic spine. You can have issues in your back that are created in your hip. And then you can have issues that are, do actually need something to some sort of testing to figure out kind of what's going on. I'll give you an example on that. So you've got to figure out and navigate all this stuff. But when you come to someone that understands the body, and the body is very predictable. Like when you have something that is mechanical, there are patterns to everything. And there's common sense of like, that doesn't make sense for this. For instance, someone comes in like, I have stenosis, and I'm like, oh, great. Cool. So tell me when does it hurt the worst? It hurts the worst when I sit. That's not stenosis. How does it feel when you walk around? I feel better. That's not stenosis. Like those are just small questions. Stenosis gets worse when you walk because you don't have enough like extension. Like it's you have some bony growth. So when every time you extend back, it hurts. Walking's little mini extensions. You should feel better when you sit because you're opening up that space in the back. So you should feel better if you have stenosis. But I don't know how many times we get in the doctor because they clinically look at the MRI and say, you have stenosis. I'm like, you may, but that's not where your pain's coming from. And so it's really, we're losing our critical thinking skills of trying to piece things together. And a big part of that, again, is because doctors do not have enough time with you. Physical therapists do not have enough time with you when they're having to see 2 and 3 patients at the same time. That's a problem. Like you can't figure things out of what's going on. And it's just too hard because you're navigating between 2 and 3 people. It's like, go on the bike first. Okay, cool. Let's go through these exercises. Okay, cool. Here's a few more exercises, but they didn't even talk to you to go like, how are you feeling from last week to this week? What are changes that are happening? What's better, what's worse, what's the same? Do we feel like we're making progress? Awesome. What are the next steps that you want to get to? Perfect. We're going to start addressing that. So let's go and see how we can get you to do that. Like those are questions that you have to ask each visit to progress someone to get better, but we don't because we don't have time. And until you can get to places that actually give you time, you're going to have a hard time. You're going to be very frustrated with the healthcare system. I mean, very frustrated. There's times when, I don't know how many people go to different doctors, and it's like 7, 8 different types of healthcare providers that people will go see before coming into our office. And I know they're frustrated. I get frustrated when I'm like, nope, that doesn't make sense. I'm going to go find someone else that's going to be able to help me. And there's a lot of things that we can do holistically. And I wouldn't even call it holistically. These are just everyday life things that we can do to help our body heal. It has an amazing ability to heal if we give it the right environment. And there's so much that you can do from a physical therapy perspective of like putting the pieces together. There's so much you can do from a diet and lifestyle perspective if you can put all the pieces together. But we don't have time. And your health insurance doesn't care if to spend time with you. They don't pay for that. Like they only pay for you to see a doctor for 10 minutes and that's it. And you don't have time to really dive into like all the different pieces that could be going on. So these are all the things that make our healthcare system a mess. And a lot of times we just tell our patients, go use your insurance. A lot of times we have conversations with people, we can tell like this is going to be, they're not going to get fixed by going to using their insurance. They're just not. Like we can tell on the phone. If it's a simple ankle sprain, those are no big deal. If you're looking to have surgery, go have the surgery. Then you have the cookie cutter exercises after the surgery. But if you're really, truly wanting to get to the source and wanting to get back and understand what you can do and really empower you, then this is the place. You need to find a place that actually can spend time with you to figure things out. And that's what we do. We're able to spend time with you to figure things out. But our healthcare system is not going to get any better anytime soon. It's actually going to get worse, because we're spending less and less time. They're trying to do more and more cuts. You can't even talk to a person in the front. The person in the front that answers the phone is like, "What's your name? Give me your insurance. When do you want to be booked?" It's not. It should be like, "Hey, tell me a little bit more about what's going on. I just want to make sure that like we're in, you're in the right place. Like, let's see if we can actually help you." "Oh, cool. Okay. Have you tried this and this? And okay, cool. I'm going to get all this information over to the physical therapist, and let's just set up a time where you can actually just have a talk with them. And we can make sure that, they can go in and go like, okay, these are the things that we want to look at. And these are the things, and this is why you're not getting better. And let's look at what the next steps are." And so we call those free discovery visits, where you can sit down and have a conversation with us so that you can feel comfortable and feel confident that you are in the right place. That's why we do it. We want to make sure that you're confident that you're in the right place. So if you're looking for something like that, definitely give us a call. They'll be in the comment sections. You can see all of our information. You'll see a free discovery visit where you can sign up for education. Oh my gosh, if you go to our website, www.empower.pt.com. We have a ton of resources there, from free ebooks to for the neck pain, neck and shoulder pain. Those are always connected. Shoulder pain, I'd say almost 70% of shoulder pain is actually coming from the neck or the thoracic spine. We have back pain ebooks on how to fix back pain, our top tips to give you. Knee pain, pelvic floor, TMJ. We have all these great resources, as well as a ton of blogs and education on that website. So definitely take a look at that. And we will see you guys next time.